of now. It is Thursday, October 15th. And this morning, we are hearing alarm bells coming from the Biden campaign that the race may be much closer than people think. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about some of the polls that are coming out that show that Biden may be vulnerable. And we're going to go over all of the top news and headlines this morning so you can get your day started right. This is the AM Report. Good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining us this morning with only 19 days left until Election Day. We've got a lot of stories around the country this morning to get to, but we want to start at the top of the morning with the Biden campaign and their alarm bells that are coming out this morning about the race and how close it may be. So this is a statement from Biden, the Biden for 2020 campaign manager. So let's talk about that a little bit and some of the polls that the Biden campaign is talking about that are troubling. Now, as we know, there's a Wall Street Journal poll that came out just today that shows that Biden is leading by 11 points, 53 to 42. Now, why this is problematic and why people should not pay attention to national polls is that they do not, in presidential elections, adequately reflect the electorate and what is going to happen in the electoral college. They take a small sample of voters from across the country, and the electoral college, as we know, is far more complex than we think. So the polling may suggest that Biden is up nationally by 11 points, but it is not looking state by state, in swing states particularly, at how well the campaigns are doing and give you an accurate reflection of what the electoral college count will be. And we know that during the Democratic National Convention just this year, Hillary Clinton, who was the 2016 Democratic nominee and who went on to win the popular vote, the first female major party nominee for president of the United States, she won the popular vote by 3 million votes. And all the polling in 2016, especially in the weeks leading up to the election, had her ahead nationally, but she lost in the electoral college in 3 states, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Michigan, by a total of 77,000 votes, despite winning the national popular vote. And she said during the DNC this year, just a couple months back, that the winner, that Joe Biden could win by 10 million votes and still lose the election. So voters who are concerned about the Trump administration, who want Joe Biden to succeed, who want to ouster the current sitting president, need to be very concerned and stay on their game. The other thing is that incumbent presidents rarely lose re-election. This is tried and true over time. There are very few instances. Now, the most recent instance where an incumbent president lost his re-election bid was George H.W. Bush. And I'll note that some promising news is that George H.W. Bush was also losing by about 11 points. As we know, that Wall Street Journal poll this morning has Biden up by 11 points. George H.W. Bush was down about 11 points, and he lost his re-election bid against Bill Clinton. Now, there are other promising demographics here. The age 65 plus vote, it appears Biden is leading 54% to 44% in that age group. This is an age group that went for Trump, that historically goes for Republicans that tend to be more conservative. And the last time we saw such a split, again, was George H.W. Bush when he lost his re-election. Now, let's look at some of the approval ratings. Donald Trump's approval rating right now is 44%. His disapproval rating is 54%. He's underwater there. And with race, some more promising news for Biden. It looks like Trump is up over Biden. 50% of white voters support Trump, while 46% of white voters support Biden. So while it appears that Biden is trailing in the white demographic, and I'll note 70% of the American electorate is white. So this is an important demographic to look at in terms of assessing the outcome or predicting the outcome of the election. Now, while this is troubling for Biden, I'll note that in 2016, Trump won the white voter by 15 points. It was a massacre with white voters. But let's look at some other statistics with race. Black voters support Joe Biden 91%, and Trump only 4%. Hispanic voters support Biden 62%. So Joe Biden is doing well among different minority groups, but is still trailing with white voters, and white voters make up 70% of the electorate. Now, on the issues, some more troubling news for Joe Biden this morning. The economy is the most important issue for voters, and Republicans continue to lead over Democrats by more than 10 points on this issue, which is also not good news for the Democrats, not good news for Joe Biden. So people who are interested in electing Joe Biden, who are concerned about the Trump presidency, should definitely not get complacent. Many people attribute complacency as part of the reason that Hillary Clinton lost in 2016, because third-party voters or independent voters either didn't show up, or they stayed at home, or they voted third party. So these are the sort of promising and troubling numbers coming out in terms of the demographics. Now, despite the fact that Republicans lead over Democrats by more than 10 points on the economy, the unemployment numbers that just got released are kind of some of the other headlines we'll be talking about this morning. So let's talk about some of the top news this morning as we get into our day. 5 Midwest states are seeing a 25% increase in cases in coronavirus in the last 2 weeks. The first vote on Amy Coney Barrett is scheduled to take place in the Senate Judiciary Committee today, and then moved to the U.S. Senate for a total vote next week. Mitch McConnell is anticipating that will be next Thursday or Friday. A flight crew member and Kamala Harris's campaign manager, Liz Allen, have both tested positive for COVID-19. Accordingly, Kamala Harris will be removed from the campaign trail till Sunday out of, quote, an abundance of caution, though she has not had personal contact with the two people that have tested positive. Barron Trump, Donald Trump's son, has tested positive for COVID-19. And tonight there will be dueling town halls between Donald Trump and Joe Biden on ABC and NBC, respectively, after Trump refuses to debate Biden. And the unemployment numbers this week are extremely troubling. 898,000, nearly 900,000 Americans have filed for first-time unemployment in the last week, which is much worse than economists were anticipating. They were anticipating something much lower. So despite the fact that Republicans continue to lead on the issue of the economy, it appears as though the economy continues to suffer under the Trump administration. Now, there has been renegotiations happening regarding a new stimulus bill to come from this Trump administration. I'll note that Trump famously now tweeted that there would be no new talks about a stimulus bill till after the election. The markets started to tank, and people were very upset. I think he did the political calculus and realized that this was not good for his reelection bid, and he asked his Treasury Secretary, Steven Mnuchin, to resume talks with congressional Democrats about a new stimulus bill. But there is more word coming now from Treasury Secretary Mnuchin that a deal may not be reached before the election. So these unemployment numbers are very troubling, and they continue to get worse despite the fact that it serves the president to have an economic stimulus bill where he gets to write his name on that check and send it out to Americans again. Now, the other thing is that there's not time to pass a stimulus bill because Senate Republicans have made at the top of their agenda the railroading through of Amy Coney Barrett to the Supreme Court, which will by all accounts take place. Now, this is going to happen for at least the next week. That the Senate Judiciary Committee will vote today and then move the nominee to the larger Senate for an up or down vote by next Thursday or Friday. So in terms of the stimulus bill, there is not time for the Senate to take it up in the next week. Only in the week or two before the election will there be any opportunity to vote on a bill, assuming that the Treasury Secretary, who is speaking on behalf of the president, will even be able to reach a deal with congressional Democrats who have proposed a deal that the Senate Republicans are displeased with because they think the number is too high. As we know, the Senate Judiciary Committee Chairman, Lindsey Graham, has said over his dead body to extending unemployment benefits. And Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell has been saying that people will be making more in unemployment benefits than they were in their paid work, which doesn't incentivize them to return to work. Now, this is, of course, just another right-wing tactic to deny people benefits because they're against exorbitant spending unless it's exorbitant spending on things like military or tax cuts for the wealthy. So that's what's going on this morning across the country. Please stay tuned as we figure out what's going on in the 2020 race with only 19 days left. But again, the Biden camp is ringing the alarms this morning that this race is still too close to call, even as we are having a historic turnout in voters in Georgia and Texas, which now add to the total count of over 15 million Americans who have voted in the 2020 presidential election. And by all means, it needs to be a historic turnout. So if you haven't registered yet to vote, iwillvote.com, or figured out where you're going to vote, figure out how you're going to vote, iwillvote.com. Make sure your voice is heard in this presidential election, and up and down take it. This has been the AM Report with Alex Mohajer for HAPS News, the network of Now. We are live every weekday morning at 7:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 Eastern, with all of your quick, progressive, political news and headlines to get your day started right. If you like this journalism, if you like this content, please consider sponsoring it by visiting me at haps.tv/@AlexMohajer, and consider buying me a cup of coffee because all I have is this one in this paper cup. So thanks so much for joining. I'll be joined tomorrow morning by political scientist and postdoctoral scholar Miranda Yavor to talk about what's going on in the Senate with this Supreme Court confirmation hearing and talk about some of the issues facing the country. And next week on Monday, we'll have Mia Mason, who's a candidate for Congress in Maryland. This has been the